What is the value of the expression 6 minus open parenthesis 52 divided by 13 times 2 close parenthesis and multiplied by 2 squared? Which option do you think is the correct answer to this question? This expression is so tricky that 95% of people get the wrong answer. Let's go step by step and solve it together. To solve this question, many people first go straight to the parentheses and solve the division between 52 and 13. So, they rewrite this expression as 6 minus 4 times 2 inside the parentheses, then multiply by 2 squared. And the next step, they perform the multiplication between 4 and 2 and simplify this expression to 6 minus 8 multiplied by 2 squared. Then, they move on to the subtraction between 6 and 8 and they rewrite this expression as negative 2 multiplied by 2 squared. And the final step, they go to the exponent and replace this expression with negative 2 multiplied by 4, which finally gives them the answer negative 8. And they conclude that the correct answer to this question is option B. However, this answer is absolutely wrong. Also, some other people when solving this question again go straight to the parentheses, but this time they start with the multiplication between 13 and 2 because they believe multiplication has a higher priority than division. So, they rewrite this expression as 6 minus 52 divided by 26 inside the parentheses, then multiply by 2 squared. And the next step, they perform the division between 52 and 26 and simplify this expression to 6 minus 2 multiplied by 2 squared. Next, they go to the exponent and simplify to 6 minus 2 multiplied by 4. And the final step, they perform the multiplication between 2 and 4 because they believe multiplication has priority over subtraction. So, they rewrite this expression as 6 minus 8, which eventually gives them the answer negative 2. Then, they quickly say that option D is the correct answer to this question. However, it's not the correct answer to this question. Alright, now let me show you how to solve this expression correctly. To solve this question, we need to follow the order of operations, which is PEMDAS. And this rule, P stands for parentheses, E stands for exponent, M stands for multiplication, D stands for division, A stands for addition, and S stands for subtraction. We should perform these operations exactly in order from top to bottom according to the PEMDAS rule. Okay, as you can see in the image and this expression, first we have a subtraction sign, then parentheses, after that we have a multiplication sign, and finally an exponent. We must start with the parentheses first because parentheses have the highest priority compared to all other operations. As you can see on the screen, inside the parentheses, first we have a division sign and then a multiplication sign. It's very important to remember that multiplication and division have the same level of priority. In this situation, we must start from the left and move toward the right, performing these two operations in order. So, we begin with the division between 52 and 13. And this expression simplified to 6 minus 4 times 2. Inside the parentheses, then multiplied by 2 squared. And the next step, we perform the multiplication between 4 and 2 and write this expression as 6 minus 8 multiplied by 2 squared. And the following step, it's time to handle the exponent because according to the PEMDAS rule, after parentheses, exponent has the highest priority compared to the other operations. So, this expression simplified to 6 minus 8 multiplied by 4. And the final step, we perform the multiplication between 8 and 4 and simplify this expression to 6 minus 32, which finally gives us the answer negative 26. Therefore, option A is the correct answer to this question. Alright, now let's solve another tricky math question together. What is the value of the expression 5 squared minus 3 multiplied by open parentheses 12 divided by 6 times 2 close parentheses and all squared? Which option do you think is the correct answer to this question? Let's take a closer look and solve it together. To solve this question, many people first go straight to 5 squared, and they simplify this expression to 25 minus 3 multiplied by 12 divided by 6 times 2 inside the parentheses and all the square. And the next step, they perform the subtraction between 25 and 3 and write this expression as 22 multiplied by 12 divided by 6 times 2 inside the parentheses and all the square. Then they move on to the expression inside the parentheses and solve the division between 12 and 6. So they simplify this expression to 22 multiplied by 2 times 2 inside the parentheses and all the square. Next, they do the multiplication between 2 and 2 and write this expression as 22 multiplied by 4 squared. Finally, they do the exponent and simplify this expression to 22 multiplied by 16, which finally gives them the answer 352. Then, they quickly say that the correct answer to this question is option D. But I have to say, we were tricked and it's not the correct answer to this question. Also, some other people when solving this question first go straight to the expression inside the parentheses because they believe parentheses have the highest priority among all the operations. And they start with the multiplication between 6 and 2 because they think multiplication has a higher priority than division. So, they rewrite this expression as 5 squared minus 3 multiplied by 12 divided by 12 inside the parentheses and all the square. And the next step, they perform the division between 12 and 12 and write this expression as 5 squared minus 3 multiplied by 1 squared. Then, they go for the exponents and write this expression as 25 minus 3 multiplied by 1. And the final step, they perform the multiplication between 3 and 1 because they believe multiplication has a higher priority than subtraction. And this expression simplified to 25 minus 3, which ultimately gives them the answer 22. And immediately, they conclude that option C is the correct answer to this question. However, that's definitely wrong. To solve this question, we must carefully follow the PEMDAS rule step by step. We need to perform all the operations exactly in order from top to bottom according to the PEMDAS rule. So, first we go for the expression inside the parentheses because parentheses have the highest priority than the other operations. And inside the parentheses, first we have a division sign and then a multiplication sign. It's very important to note that multiplication and division have exactly the same level of priority. In this situation, we must start from the left and perform these two operations in order. So, first we go for the division between 12 and 6 and write this expression as 5 squared minus 3 multiplied by 2 times 2 inside the parentheses and all the square. And the next step, we perform the multiplication between 2 and 2. And this expression simplified to 5 squared minus 3 multiplied by 4 squared. Now, it's time for the exponent because after parentheses, exponent has a higher priority than the other operations. So, we rewrite this expression as 25 minus 3 multiplied by 16. And the final step, we perform the multiplication between 3 and 16 because multiplication has a higher priority than subtraction. So, this expression simplified to 25 minus 48, which finally gives us the answer negative 23. That's great. Option A is the correct answer to this question.